We're doing another fantasy football mock draft live tonight. We did one last night. It's the first one of the season. We've done best ball drafts before. Now we're doing a real fantasy football live draft with the listeners. It's going to be my co-host tonight, and then 10 of you guys. I'm going to post the link right now in the description or the chat right now. So you have the links there in the chat. So feel free to join. It's first come, first serve on here. I will eventually post this on Twitter and Facebook, but you guys get first priority here. So welcome to the WalterFootball.com After Dark show for August 7th, 2025. Like I said, we're going to be doing a fantasy draft. I'm drafting 8th. My co-host is 5th. Before we get to the introductions, please hit like, subscribe, comment below, share this video. Visit the link in the description for the merch store. I'm wearing one thing from the merch store. It is our March is Greed Month t-shirt. I was going to wear my August is Gluttony Month t-shirt once again, like I did yesterday, but my daughter spilled stuff on me. She's going to be 2 in 2 weeks. So that didn't work out. Plus we had to go out for my birthday dinner tonight. So I couldn't have it was some like goo on my shirt. Wouldn't be a good look. I didn't think at a restaurant. I don't get to go to the restaurant that often these days, but it wouldn't be great to do that. But you can buy some of these shirts here, including the one I'm wearing. You can change the colors. You can get them in long sleeve, hoodie, women's tank top, infant onesie. Even we have our mugs. We have our famous apron. You could go to Amazon, buy my books. The most recent one is Jerks of the College Years, where I made fun of people I met at Penn State. A lot of weirdos out there. I was there for 6 years. You guys have a lot of fun reading it, I think. Also, please consider super chat, super stickers. Armac gave us a $40 super chat yesterday and a $20 super chat last week. You are the man, Armac. Also, Slew, John Sanders, Can't Make an Eagle, Degeneron. Like, you guys have been so helpful in the past as well. I can't say that enough. But yeah, we are joined once again by Mike Luchene of NFLRoughDraft.com. And I have to say, Mike is posting some fantastic content here on the show. So make sure you subscribe to get the content, to make sure you see it when Mike posts it. But they're great. Stock report, training camp videos, like with breaking news and stuff. And Mike had a great deep sleeper today. I never even heard of him, so I was like, "Oh, this guy's intriguing." So I don't know if he's going to quite make our mock draft tonight, but yeah, Mike, how's it going?
It's going great, and I appreciate the kind words. And yeah, Amani Marshall's probably not getting drafted tonight, but like I said in my camp update earlier, if you're, maybe some of our listeners, maybe they're playing some preseason daily fantasy, maybe their families haven't had the intervention with them yet. Right. Okay. They haven't been sent to a facility yet. And so they're going to set a lineup tomorrow night for that Browns preseason game. Amani Marshall could get a lot of run.
Yeah, that's a great name. I'm a degenerate who plays preseason fantasy DFS. Now, granted, I just do one lineup for fun. It's not like I don't enter 150 lineups. I think that's insane. Like one lineup for fun for $10 is like whatever. I don't quite consider that gambling. It's just just having a good time. Like I've spent many dumber things on $10 than preseason DFS. Like I was telling the guys that now this may constitute degenerate gambling. I was in Las Vegas and I bet $20 on the formerly known team as known as the Oakland Athletics to win the World Series. It was actually I saw it was 1,000 to 1 on DraftKings, and I was like, that seems like not terrible because they have Nick Kurtz and everything, and he's hitting home runs not like left and right. And it's kind of like I was like, could it be like a St. Louis Blues type dynamic? When they had that goalie change and like this is a dynamic change. Like they obviously have terrible pitching, but at least they have amazing hitting with Kurtz there. And so I thought, maybe Circa has something different. And so I went to the window, and I was like, what are the Athletics still in the World Series? And I looked, and they were 150 to 1. I'm like, that's odd. They're 1,000 to 1 DraftKings. Why are they 150 to 1? And the manager looked at the screen. He's like, oh no, we're missing zeros. It's like they're 1,500 to 1 actually. So I was like, you know what? I'll put a $20 bet to make 30,000. It's never gonna happen. Like this is the dumbest thing. I just wasted $20. But like I said, I told them I was like, I'm gonna have fun doing it. So that at least carries some value. And I don't know if you follow baseball at all, but if you do, tell me how dumb that bet was.
Yeah, no, hey, I'm out of the loop of baseball. I used to be really big into it, and then, I just, how it is with kids. I get like 10 minutes a day. And I actually used to do preseason DFS too. So,
Nice.
but again, 10 minutes a day, and my family sent me to a facility to just for recovering preseason NFL DFS addicts. And so I don't set them anymore.
That's probably for the best. Like I said, one lineup, maybe two max, and then that's it. But like anyone who's entering like different showdown lineups, like 150 maxing them when you just don't even like have all the data and like you just don't know what all the coaches are going to do. Like granted, we have some information, but unless you have like inside info, and at that point, you know, it should be illegal, but it's not. That I feel like that's where you draw the line. But Sue says that was $20 you could have spent at the super play place for your daughter. Yeah, that's true. That's true. The super expensive play place. You know, like whatever. I don't know. They've won. They won what, like nine of the last 14. They've been on a tear. The problem is just they're way behind right now. I think they need to recover like 10 wins. Like they have 2 months to do it, I guess. I think they could get it close. Like they're the second worst team in the AL, but I think they can like get close to the wild card. I don't think they're going to quite make it, but I don't know. $20 for 30 grand. Like I think it's worth it, but I don't know. Probably not. Malia, hey, how's it going? And then we have Mr. Appleman joining us. We had some crazy trolling last night toward the end of our draft. Like some this is not PPR. I put it down as PPR, but I mean, look, if you want to draft as not PPR, it doesn't. I don't think it matters too much. All right, we have 2 teams left. You know, film a couple minutes. I'll tweet that out again. Yeah, I don't think it's too bad. But anyway, at the end of the draft last night, we had some crazy trolling here. Apparently, someone posted this link, the link to our mock draft, on a Bears subreddit or something, and for some reason they like flooded the stream, and I don't understand why. I think they were saying like nonsense. Like they're saying like ridiculous jokes, like haha, your wiener's too small. Like okay, like who are you guys? Like 12. Like there were like 10 of them, like just trolling. Hopefully they don't show up tonight. If they do, I'm a big fan of trolling, so it's not like it's going to be bothered to me too much. But it just kind of like it crowded the chats, so like I couldn't see all the chats. Yeah, I tried looking for that thread, but I guess the mods must have taken it down. Too bad. Yeah, I wonder why. I don't understand why they I don't know why they flooded this stream specifically. It just seems so odd.
This is the Chicago Bears?
Chicago Bears, yeah. Okay. It's not like I'm a Packer fan or a Viking fan or a Lion fan. Like it's just I don't know. It was very, very weird. It's just so random. Okay, we got one more spot left. I'll give it a minute, and then I'll, just in case like no one else joins, I'll tweet it out. So PPR is the worst. If someone catches the ball and loses 2 yards, why should they not 0.8 points? So Kenny agrees with that. How do you feel about PPR versus standard as as far as the scoring system is concerned?
Yeah, I mean, thank you for the comment. But to answer that question, the reason you get the 0.8 of the point is because it's not 1994 anymore. It's just what everybody plays. But, he does bring up a good point.
Yeah.
Receptions are really overvalued in PPR. They make a big difference. If you wanted to, probably give the fairest sort of if you want to make the scoring rules as fair as possible and be a true indicator of how good the players actually are, half-point PPR would probably be best.
Yeah, I can see that. I used to be a part of a league that had the most asinine score system. It was like touchdown only. I called it touchdown only. But you get like 1 point for like 20 or 25 yards for rushing and receiving, and it would be 6 points for touchdown. And so what would happen was like all the high scoring touchdown guys would be at a premium. And then, but the thing is like the kickers would still be like 3 points for regular field goal, 4 for 40, for 49, 5 points for 50 plus. And so the kickers would like routinely outscore most of the running backs and receivers. And so like kickers were like at a premium in this league. Like the smart people would suddenly realize that you should draft kickers in like the 8th round. So the league system just made no sense at all.
I'm in a league like that too. The league originated at some point in the 1980s. I mean, I obviously wasn't an original member of that league, but it's the same thing where the defenses, there's like a salary cap and the defenses outscore everybody else. And it's just whoever came up with it back in the 80s was probably taking drugs, and they just haven't changed it in the 40 years since then.
Yeah, I guess that's what they did back then. I guess that's more the 70s, but still. Let's see. You won't have as many views due to this non-PPR draft. Non-PPR drafts are dead. Well, this is a PPR draft technically. So, but whatever. I mean, if you want to draft it as if it's non-PPR, I don't really have much of a difference there. PPR dumbs it down for everyone. There's a lot of points to be scored, so you don't have to think as much. I'm trying to join, but I can't. I wonder why. You have to click the claim once you sign in. There's a claim here for Team 7. That's the only outstanding spot we have left. But if you, I don't know. I mean, we have the link here. I'll post the link once again, just in case you don't see it. I just post it right now.
I love this conversation we have going on. It's a good debate about PPR, and I'm happy that he kind of came back and said it dumbs it down. I disagree. I respectfully disagree on that. I think that you could look at a lot of people look at a player like Derrick Henry and think, oh, wow, he's one of the best backs in the league. I'm going to draft him. Or, even Amari and Hampton. Everybody's looking at Amari and Hampton right now and saying, oh, he's going to be a monster in fantasy. But in PPR, you have to factor in, well, Derrick Henry doesn't catch a lot of passes. Mm-hmm. Amari and Hampton's in an offense where Greg Roman offenses don't usually give a lot of targets to the running back. So I think it's something else that you have to account for. I don't think it necessarily dumbs it down.
Yeah. All right. We are full. We're going to start this draft. And we have 1:30 per pick, which I could set at any time. I don't know if like 1:30 is too much or too little, but I feel like most people don't take 1:30. So unless you just like not paying attention. So Jamar Chase is the top pick. As we've seen in best ball, he's one pick. Bijan Robinson, number 2. Or did he change his name to like Bijan Robinson? I think I heard that somewhere.
So at the combine, they actually said that his name was pronounced Bijan, but it didn't stick.
Okay.
Like Bijan.
Bijan.
Yeah, but it never stuck. So everyone's been calling him Bijan anyway.
Yeah, but now I'm hearing it's Bijan, like not Bijan, but Bijan. I don't know. You're up at 105. What are you doing here?
I'm treating this like it's a PPR league, and I'm taking CeeDee Lamb. I mean, CeeDee Lamb to me is ahead of Jefferson. He's not hurt. That Dallas offense is not going to be able to run the ball. Dak's going to throw the ball. Lamb's going to have 180 targets. I think that he's a contender, obviously, for wide receiver 1 overall. He's my wide receiver 2 behind Chase.
Yeah, I mean, does the Dallas offensive line worry you? That's my concern with the Cowboys. Like, they have a lot of injuries there right now, and like, frankly, like outside of a couple of spots, they weren't that good to begin with. So that's my worry. What do you think about the offensive line there?
Yeah, I don't like that Tyler Guyton got hurt and he's going to miss the year, but the defense isn't looking as good.
Right.
If anything does happen with Micah Parsons, I doubt it will. That's going to make the defense even worse. And I love that sort of blend of having a bad defense with an offense that's going to throw the ball a lot.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to go with Devon Achane. I don't know if he's going to make it back to me, but especially given that this is PPR, he's going to catch 1 million passes this year. And I talked about it last night. It was so weird how we had like 2 different seasons from Achane. Like the first season he was running for like 80 yards a pop, and then the second season he caught 1 million passes but couldn't run. And it had to do with Miami's offensive line just being in shambles. But they added James Daniels, they added a second day guard. So we'll see how that shakes up. But like what if the 2 seasons, like if there's like a confluence of the 2, like what if he just has a great year? I considered Malik Neighbors as well. I love Malik Neighbors, but I feel like I can get a good receiver on the way back at 205, or one of my other favorite running backs, which I'm leaning. I like to be balanced, but I'm kind of leaning toward running back at this point, because after a few running backs in the 3rd round, I find like the position to be pretty underwhelming outside of like, well, I don't want to whatever, I'll say the name, Travion Henderson, which like who goes usually in round 5, but there's no guarantee he's going to come back to me at 508. So, what are your thoughts on the Achane pick?
Yeah, I mean, I like it. I'm really high on McCaffrey this year. I think, he's got a chance to be running back 1 overall now that he's healthy. But Achane's he's gonna catch a lot of passes. He always does. And yeah, I like it.
Yeah, I would have taken Gibbs had he fallen to me. He went 107 instead of 108. I have to say, not a big fan of the Derrick Henry pick. I don't hate it, but it seems like a little too early. And there's like a slight chance he would have made it back at 207. Like he's been slipping a little bit, at least on best ball, to like 204, 205. I guess if like you love Henry, then you can just take him there at 106. Again, I don't like hate the pick, but it just feels like that's like much earlier than I've seen him go. Anything else stand out to you in the first round?
Well, if he was looking at this as if it was non-PPR, then that makes a little bit of sense, right? Because Henry makes more sense in the first round if you're not getting any points per reception. 31 years old. I personally have him in the 3rd round in my PPR rankings. Puka Nacua, he stands out to me. It's the end of the first round. That's a solid pick right there. But he's interesting because he's the type of receiver where I'm not sure he's going to be as dominant with a different quarterback. Matthew Stafford sort of gets underrated by the fantasy community because he hasn't been a great fantasy quarterback the last few years. He's been getting older, but he's very accurate. And Nacua doesn't create a lot of separation. A lot of his production has come from just really accurate passes. And if Jimmy Garoppolo ends up being there long-term this year, that could hurt him. Now, they say Stafford's going to be ready for week 1, but, I mentioned this in my training camp update video earlier today. I'm a little bit concerned that he got an epidural. I remember I've got 3 kids. I remember my wife all 3 times, maybe I'll get the epidural to have this human hatch out of my body. And Matthew Stafford needs it to eat his Count Chocula in the morning. So I'm a little bit concerned about what's going on there.
Well, Count Chocula is pretty good, but I did hear that from you, and I agree. And unfortunately, when we had our first kid, or my son, the epidural failed. So my wife was really in agony. So that hopefully it works for Stafford, but it's pretty worrying that he has to do that. I'm going to take Bucky Irving here. So same start as last night, although I took him at 12 and 13. I love Bucky Irving. I think he's going to have a huge year. I don't see Rachaad White being a factor at all this year. New offensive coordinator. Like there is no allegiance to Rachaad White, and Irving has experience now, and I wouldn't surprise me at all if Rachaad White's traded even. So Rachaad White also said, by the way, he said that this was his last year in Tampa. That's you don't hear that often, where like NFL players will say like this is my final year here. It sometimes happens, but not always. So I think Irving's going way too late. Like he's going like late 2nd round. So you may call this a reach, but I really don't think so. I just think he's mispriced. I think his ADP should be earlier. Any thoughts on that pick?
You look at your team right now, and you can rely on a bunch of receptions from your running back. So
yeah, and you're up by the way.
I got sniped right there with AJ Brown. That was a fantastic pick right there. I think if that draft were backwards, that would be even better, right? AJ Brown in the 1st round and Henry in the 2nd. And I'm going to take Brock Bowers, which I know you'll hate that pick, but here's the deal with the Raiders offense this year. They're going to run a lot of plays. Chip Kelly always has everywhere he's been. The defense is not looking good. Ja'Cory Bennett was their top cover corner last year, but he doesn't fit that typical Pete Carroll mold at cornerback. That was tall. He is fast, but he's not tall enough. He's not a press corner. So they traded him. So right now, Eric Stokes is their top cornerback, and he's a bust from the Green Bay Packers. Okay, so if the Bears Reddit is in here, take it easy on me. I just mentioned a Packers bust. But that's not good news for that defense. So they're going to run a lot of plays, and he had 112 receptions as a rookie, which is unheard of for a tight end. Obviously, the most a rookie tight end's ever had. More receptions than Travis Kelce's ever had in the season, or Gronk, or Antonio Gates or a bunch of other Hall of Famers. So I'm pretty high on Brock Bowers, and I like that positional advantage, being able to have him in the tight end spot.
Do you agree that this year Bowers' receptions might go down because instead of noodle arm quarterbacks that can go downfield more, but his touchdowns might increase because the offense is going to be much better as a whole?
Well, I think it's easy to project his receptions to go down, right? Because 112 is a really special season. But what I'll say is I wouldn't rule it out for it to stay the same, or it's hard to go much higher than 112.
Mm-hmm.
But the quarterback play in general is going to be a lot better. The defense is going to be worse, and they're going to run more plays. And sure, Dante Thornton looks like he's going to be a little bit of a factor, but you're still looking at Bowers and Jacoby Myers as really kind of carrying the load in the passing game in terms of targets.
There's one pick in the second round that stands out like a sore thumb, and I wonder if you can guess what that is. I don't like it at all.
Oh yeah, I mean, if Kamara has his 95 targets again this year, that won't be the end of the world. But all right, in his defense, you're probably not getting Kamara at 412. So if you want him, you have to take him at the 212, 301 turn. But
I think that's exactly where he went last night. I think at 412.
Oh, did he? Okay, so 412 is a great value.
I could be wrong, but I think he went 412 last night. I'm off Kamara completely. I'm not taking him even sixth round. I'm not even sure. I think he might be phased out at the end of the year because they're going to be so bad that, like, why would they keep running with him? Like, why wouldn't they be like, okay, let's look at our young guys when they're just maybe trying to get the top pick. You're up at 305.
Yep. So I think I'm going T. Higgins here. So same deal. Bad defense, hasn't really gotten much better. I doubt it'll be quite as bad as last year, but that offense is going to throw the ball a lot. With T. Higgins, the question is always health. So he's got to stay healthy. But if he does, it's going to be Chase and Higgins and Chase Brown. In my leagues this year, I want as many shares of those three guys and Joe Burrow as I can get.
Yeah. I feel like earlier when we first started drafting, Higgins was going late round 2, and it feels like he slipped to mid round 3. And I definitely like him a lot better there than late round 2. It just makes more sense. It's good, much better value. So I like Higgins. Like he had like 110 targets last year, but Hampton got taken. He had 110 targets last year, but he missed 5 games. So I feel like he'd be in pace for like 150 targets or something. So anyway, I am up right now. Let's see who's available. The running backs are completely gone. Okay, see one receiver I would consider for sure. All right, let's go with Marvin Harrison Jr. Lots of upside. I think he's going to be much better second year. And I feel like a lot of people criticize him for having a bad year last year, but if you just look at the numbers without even considering like Lad McConkey, Brian Thomas Jr., and Malik Neighbors, you would be like, oh, okay, those are not bad numbers for rookie. He had almost 1,000 yards. He had 8 or 9 touchdowns. Like he was pretty highly up there with the stats. But those other 3 monsters really just went off. So I think Harrison just kind of got criticized a lot for that, but he should be better, in his second year. I like that the Cardinals have a reliable backup now in Jacoby Brissett. It's not like Clayton Tune or anything. So even if Murray goes down, which I would expect at some point, because last year was the only season he's had completely healthy. I think he's going to be in good hands with Brissett there. So do you like Harrison at 308?
Oh, I love that value that late. If Higgins weren't there, I would have probably taken Hampton. I know Hampton was off the board for you, and you already had 2 running backs, but I would have strongly considered Harrison. With my pick, I think he's a breakout waiting to happen. You mentioned that people think that he had a poor rookie season. His dad's a Hall of Famer, obviously a
Right.
much different, smaller receiver, but their rookie years are almost identical.
Yeah.
And sure, it was a different era, but I mean, 800 yards as a rookie wide receiver is pretty darn good. I like your point about, he had Neighbors, he had Brian Thomas. It was a really good receiving class, and it sort of made it look like he underachieved when he didn't really.
Yeah, if it wasn't for those other guys, people would be like, "Oh, that's a solid year." So,
Yeah.
Funky Dan with 4 receivers to start, which is interesting. I don't know. I feel like I don't know. I wouldn't go like 4 receivers. I'm not a fan of Hill. Not a fan of Evans either. And you talked about Nakua in your video. That's I mean, yeah, it's a rough situation there. But yeah, I'm not a big fan of that team, especially like the build, like the 4 receivers. I feel like it's just too much. But anyway, I think you have to break that up at some point. James Cook. I want to actually want to save that conversation until later because that could affect something else. You mentioned Hampton. I love Hampton. I kind of was like, oh man, Hampton got taken. I would have taken Hampton and gone 3 running backs to start, and then just not worried about the position after that. So, I think it's if you're a Najee Harris owner, you have to be concerned that he wasn't even cleared to walk until 3 days ago. Uh, very, very concerning situation. Anyone who's been listening to me about quarterbacks knows what I'm going to do here. There are 5 elite quarterbacks this year. And there's a big gap after that. And round 4 is the dead zone. There's like nothing here I like at all, unless you reach for someone in the 5th round or you take a quarterback. There's really nothing here. So I'm going with Jalen Hurts. We had this last night, actually. We had Daniels, Burrow, and Hurts in some other order going back to back early in this round. We had it at 401, 402, and 403. So it's funny it happened at 403, 404, and 405. Let's see. Yeah. So I'm the only one chatting. 12-man league is tough. I'm in 10-man PPR. I followed you every year. You listen, cheat you the best. Thank you. Thank you so much, Emily. I really appreciate it. I thought you could have gotten Hurts there. Thanks, Bagley. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I would highly recommend quarterback around 4. I don't know how you feel about that, Mike, but all these players here, and I discussed this last night, and I want to go over these players again once round 4 is over. Like every running back or receiver in round 4 is just like bleh. There's either something wrong with them or they're injured, they're old. Hubbard's like the only exception, but he usually goes round 5. You're up on the clock, and you take Travion Henderson. So we want to talk about him.
Yeah, so I'm with you on the quarterbacks, right? 4th round, I feel like, is the sweet spot. Okay, I've got a good friend and a big Buffalo Bills fan, Steve Kelly, last year drafted Josh Allen in the 1st round of our fantasy draft. And you know what? It worked out fine for him because Josh Allen was quarterback 1 overall. So it can work out taking an early quarterback. But there are so many of these sort of mid-range guys this year that could take a huge leap forward and finish top 5. That I don't really want to make that investment before the 4th round. So I look at what you did, Hurts, Burrow, Daniels, love that. Because this is sort of that range where you don't really, the receivers are starting to have some warts in the 4th round. The running backs, I like Henderson, but, he usually goes in the 5th round. So that's the sweet spot. But the reason I don't want to take them earlier is because I look at guys like Jordan Love. Hey, he was hurt all of last year. He's got Reed is back. He's got Golden now. He's got a ton of targets. Tucker Kraft sounds like he's taking another step forward. You've got Dak back and healthy, and they're not going to be able to run the ball, so he could take a step forward. Justin Herbert, those offenses don't tend to run a lot of plays, but he's got Keenan Allen now. He's got, all these other receivers there, and he's probably the 5th or 6th best quarterback in the NFL and real football. So he could take a jump forward. Then you've got the 2nd-year guys like Drake May and Caleb Williams. One of those guys could break out. Last year, Baker Mayfield was quarterback 3 overall. So I like the later round quarterbacks if you can't get one of them in the 4th round. As far as Henderson goes, I might even move him ahead of Omari and Hampton in my rankings. He's going to just catch so many passes. He's going to be on the field all the time because he's so good in pass protection. I could see Hampton is going to have more rushing yards if they both stay healthy. but Henderson's going to have so many receptions that he can outscore him.
I love Henderson. Like you said, he typically goes around later. And really, like whenever I draft, he'll go like between 5'10" and 6'03" usually. But I feel like the way the running backs are flying off the board, we have like DeAndre Swift usually goes round 6, Pacheco usually goes round 7. This is I feel like you have to bump everyone up one round, like Hubbard usually goes mid round 5. So I guess round 4 is the right time to take these guys. Usually go a little bit later, and in redraft, running backs tend to go earlier than they do in best ball. So I guess that makes sense. Which is why I'm like I'm more likely to go running back in round 1 and 2 than I am in best ball. Do you have any idea why running backs go earlier in redraft instead of best ball?
I have a theory behind that. Let me just see who I'm going to pick here first, real quick. And
yeah. Decide who you're going to take. I'll read some comments. Let's see. James Cook, Josh Jacobs, Chuba Hubbard, Chase Brown. I feel like in the 14 team, running back heavy is the way to go. Yeah, especially in 14 team. Love Bucky Irving. So Adams goes. You're on the clock.
Yep, I'm taking Xavier Worthy here. He's another guy who I like in the 4th round. Everybody's talking about Rashee Rice. Rashee Rice is going to get at least 4 games. You look at Jordan Addison got 3 games for his DUI last year. Rashee Rice is like crashing cars across the highway. He's going to get more than that. I like Worthy. He's got a year under his belt. I mean, look what he did in the playoffs. Look what he did late in his rookie year, which is where you typically see that jump with rookie receivers. That second half of the year, he could really have a good year. So I like the upside there. My theory as to why running backs go higher in redraft than best ball is simply because most people are drafting redraft closer to the season, and you're starting to get a lot of people who haven't really been, they're more sort of like people who will have 3 teams or 2 teams or maybe even 1 team, and they're just used to that old strategy of got to get my running backs.
Right.
I can't miss out on my running backs. They're not sitting here, at 1 o'clock in the morning talking about, like you and I were talking about Alexander Madison at 1 o'clock in the morning the other night. Okay, so I think that's why the running backs get pushed up here.
We've had some discussions about some guys who like wouldn't even sniff any redraft leagues.
Exactly.
Good. What were you saying?
Oh yeah, no, exactly. I completely agree with you. Yeah.
I mean, like you opened my eyes to like Jalen Lane and Ty Felton. Well, I appreciate it because I actually I heard our source with the Vikings that we have. They were really talking about Felton. Like they're like we love him a lot. So in best ball, he's almost must draft in round 20. But okay, let me see what I'm doing here. McLaurin just don't know what to do with him at this point. Like I'm worried about injuries from the holdout. Let's see who else is available here. What is this? Okay. Okay. All right. So I'm gonna go decide between 2 guys. How much time do I have? 57 seconds. I'm not gonna take off all the time. Let's go DK Metcalf. He's going like late round 4 in best ball, mid to late round 4. I used to take him around 5 all the time. And then my theory was, okay, they're going to sign Aaron Rodgers. And so his ADP is going to go up. And that's what happened. But I don't really understand that because like, I thought that was obvious. Like they're either going to sign Rodgers or trade for Cousins. And so either way, his ADP was going to go up, and then it eventually did. So I don't really get that. People seem to be down on Metcalf. I don't really get why. Like he's the only really like reliable or viable like wide receiver they have there. I guess they have like Calvin Austin, but Metcalf is just he's a freak athlete still. He could have a big season with Rodgers. We saw Devontae Adams last year have some big performances with Rodgers. So any thoughts on Metcalf?
Yeah, so I'm down on him, but I'm down on him in the 4th round.
Yeah.
And the reason and you got him toward the end of the 5th round, which I think is a great value. So the reason I don't like him in the 4th round is because that's where he usually goes. And I know he's in a different situation now, but I don't think his situation is better, right? He's got a quarterback who's our age. He's got Arthur Smith, who goes on press conferences, talks about how he hates fantasy football. You know, the reporters are like, well, you gave Jonnu Smith 4 targets and you gave Darnell Washington 4 targets and you gave 4 tight ends 4 targets each, and DK Metcalf got 4 targets. Like, what's going on? And he's like, I hate fantasy football. But that's also a team that plays good defense. And so I could see a slow-paced sort of win with defense, run the ball. That's what Arthur Smith likes to do. And so I could see him sort of finishing in that wide receiver 20 to 25 range that he always finishes in. So I think it's a good, safe pick, you know, when you're looking at your you know, you're filling out your wide receiver starter position, but I just think he has less upside than like, you know, if you're looking at McMillan, right? Some people are probably envisioning that he could finish as, you know, wide receiver 10, wide receiver 11, wide receiver 12. Some things would have to go right for that to happen.
Mm-hmm.
But I think Metcalf is in that 20 to 25 range, and I'm happy with it in the 5th round. I don't love it in the 4th round.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I don't like him in the 4th. 5th seems okay. There are actually some guys I like better than him, but it feels like, especially with the ADP, it feels like you can get them later. So I feel like you should definitely look in on that, and I'll get more into that as we go on. I did want to touch on the 4th round because I said round 4 is a dead zone. So except for the quarterbacks and Kittle, you have Mike Evans, who's 32 and has chronic hamstring issues. Kenneth Walker, who's injured right now. You have Rashee Rice, who might be suspended. We'll see what his suspension will be. I've heard opinions like yours. It's going to be more than Addison's. I've heard opinions that it might be less because there was no substance abuse. So we'll see. I don't really know what to expect. Like, it feels like the NFL's erratic when it comes to that. And then you have guys like Hubbard and Henderson, who I like, but are going later. So you have to take them around earlier, which is probably what I would do if I couldn't get the quarterbacks. DeAndre Swift's going 2 rounds later. Cortland Sutton, I feel like, is a little overdrafted. He just had his best year. I think he's going to be okay, but I feel like 4.11, I think, is a little too early. And Pacheco is going like 3 rounds later. So that is round 4 there. And if you want to include DJ Moore, who is he might be appropriately priced. Maybe he's like mid-round 5 is probably the best for him. If you want to go a little bit earlier than Tyreek Hill, who has all sorts of things wrong with him, and Breece Hall, who might split the workload with Braylon Allen, and Garrett Wilson, who's playing with Justin Fields. So this whole round 4 dead zone is just it really, it's just a horrible situation. That's why I want to take a quarterback there. And that's also why I don't want to draft at the 12 spot. Like, I actually like the 1 to 2 turn at 112 and 201, but I hate the 312, 401 turn. Just feels like you get one of these crappy players and then you take your quarterback. It just seems like a dreadful situation. So does anything stand out to you in like round 4 or like near adjacent round 4 that you're like, okay, I like these guys, not counting the guys who go a little bit later?
Yeah. So I know it was my pick, but I really think TreVeyon Henderson's ADP is going to rise, and he's going to be going in the 4th round. And, when I get into my FFPC drafts a little bit, in a couple of weeks or a week from now, I think, I'm going to pretty much pencil in Henderson or Kamara in the 4th round. I know you don't like Kamara. That's a deal where I'm not betting on Kamara to still look like, what he did years ago. I'm just betting on Kellen Moore running a lot of plays in that offense and Kamara getting his 80, 85, maybe even 90 targets because they're losing all the time. So I think that's my plan for the 4th round is TreVeyon Henderson, maybe Alvin Kamara. If I needed receiver, I'm okay with taking Devontae Smith there. I think Devontae Smith is a 4th round value all day long, even though he goes in the 5th round. I don't understand why he goes in the 5th round. To the best of my knowledge, the reasoning for him going in the 5th round is because he had a little bit of an underwhelming year last year, which wasn't even really that underwhelming. It was just because the Eagles ran the ball at almost a historically high rate. So they're not going to be able to repeat that. They're going to be passing the ball more. And they throw the ball to A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith in their passing game. They don't really have a third receiver. Jahan Dotson's not going to break out in year 5 or 6. That's my plan for round 4. And Xavier Worthy's another one where I'm okay taking him in round 4 too. Just because if you get some progress off of what he did the second half of last year in that offense, that's intriguing. Really like that George Pickens pick, by the way, too. I think he's another one who's really undervalued. So this is the middle of the 6th round.
You're up right now.
Yep.
And I while you decide, I took Travis Hunter. It feels like there's so much upside there. He's going to be playing offense. They have to justify that pick because they spend a next year's first rounder on it. You took Rome Odunze. You want to talk about that one?
Yeah. So he's again. I expect him to break out. I think this is very similar to what we were talking about with Marvin Harrison last year. Odunze was sort of viewed as having a poor season or a disappointing season, and he had a rookie quarterback. He had an offensive coach that he wasn't a very good offensive coach. The Bears should have figured out that situation before Caleb Williams' first season. Now they've got Ben Johnson there. Odunze's having a good camp, which honestly I wouldn't even care if I heard that he wasn't having a good camp. I just think he's locked in for a big role. He's got his second-year jump coming. He's got Caleb Williams' second-year jump coming. He's like the anti Devontae Adams to me here. Okay, rather than having an aging quarterback he's got a quarterback with high upside that's breaking into maybe the prime of his career, and he I think could do the same.
I like this is fast picks. I like Odunze a lot as a player. I have worries about Caleb Williams, but I mean, obviously you took Odunze, so you don't really care too much. And I've taken Odunze a lot in the 6th round too. Any thoughts on like Caleb Williams's recent struggles? I'm sure a lot of people have seen those videos.
Yeah, so I know I'm doing these camp updates every day, and I want everybody to hear about all the news going on. But there's a little part of me that has to keep in mind some of this stuff gets blown out of proportion.
Yeah.
I'm with you. Some of the stuff is concerning. You hear about they're not able to line up right in Bears camp, and they're having false starts, and offense doesn't look great. But there have been so many years where I get to about 5 o'clock, week 1 of the NFL schedule, and I'm like, oh, well, we didn't hear anything about that guy, and he had 170 yards receiving today, or he was the starter. So there's a Ricky Pearsall pick. I like that one too.
Yeah, you're up. By the way.
Yep. I was going to take Cameron Tracy, and he got picked while I was talking.
Yeah, I wanted Pearsall, Igbuka, and Tracy, and all of them went in this turn. So we definitely have some sharp drafters here. You took Jordan Mason, so I want to talk about that one.
Yeah, I was trying to add him to the queue, and I picked him by mistake.
Oh,
I'm not used to drafting on sleeper. I was going to look at him a little bit later, but here's the deal with Jordan Mason. It's going to be a 50-50 share with Aaron Jones. I talked about that about a week ago, and in my camp update, Dan Graziano had an article for ESPN.com yesterday where he mentioned the same thing. And Jordan Mason's going to get all the goal line carries. And this is a team that really struggled with their run game inside the 5-yard line last year. That's going to be Jordan Mason this year. It should be a good offense. So what I was going to do was take Jordan Mason a little bit later to talk about this at this point. But I clicked that plus sign instead of that purple piece of paper and drafted him here.
That's funny. Yeah, well, we used to do mock drafts on Fantasy Football Calculator, and there would be so many problems. Like people would get kicked out, and then they couldn't come back in. There would be like players who played 20 years ago who were still listed for some reason.
I remember that. I think I did a few on that website. my computer doesn't load DOS anymore, so I'm glad we moved away from that website.
Oh man, that's I don't understand. I felt like that site was good before, and then it just they just let it go. I'm gonna take Matthew Golden here. He's had a dynamic training camp. We'll see. I don't know. I was skeptical on him coming into the NFL, but from all accounts, he's had a great camp. And like I said, I'd rather have Pearsall and Igbuka and Tracy. They were all gone, so we've had some sharp picks there. But I'm happy with Golden, my fourth receiver. What are your thoughts on him?
I love Matthew Golden. I just took him in my last dynasty rookie draft was today. I took him at 201. So with my old ESPN stats and information buddies, so there's only 10 teams in the league. It might as well be from 1990. But I got him at 201. He's having a great camp. You know, yeah, you hear that they spread the ball around a lot. But if one of these guys emerges, there's some potential for some really big numbers in that offense. I'm very bullish on Matthew Golden and Jalen Reed going into this year.
Yeah, I'm not as high on Reed so much because he doesn't play three receiver sets. So feels like sometimes, like some games, he'll just like do nothing. He has insane spike weeks though, so I like him better in best ball than I do redraft. But I think Golden could just have a great year into just in total. We had a question about RJ Harvey, thoughts on him at 5'12". What do you think about that pick? Because we had questions about this specifically.
I like it. So Sean Payton's running backs, last year, throw that out. But back when he was with the Saints, his running backs produce in PPR leagues. They catch a lot of passes. Reggie Bush, Pierre Thomas, Alvin Kamara. I'm forgetting about one or two of them. But Darren Sproles was fantasy relevant there. I know he's listed as 5th on the depth chart. If you follow along with my camp updates, one of the things I talk about is how these first unofficial depth charts are sometimes filled out by the team's PR departments. Or, they're not set in stone. There's weird things going on with these depth charts. So don't read into him being 5th on the depth chart. I like it. I think, especially when you're looking for upside and you take a look at who's left here, it's him, Caleb Johnson, Tyrone Tracy. And, aside from that, you're kind of just hoping for an injury. And even with Caleb Johnson, you've got to kind of hope that he's got a role in that passing game, because if he doesn't, now he's kind of locked in as sort of like a Brian Robinson, where, you might not hate putting Brian Robinson in your running back 2 spot, but a lot of times, the team that eventually ends up winning the league is going to have a running back 1, and then they're going to have somebody else who they find as sort of another running back 1, someone who produces as a running back 1, either because of injury or an opportunity that didn't look like it was going to be there in August.
Yeah, I like Caleb Johnson as like just a pure runner, but he's not going to catch passes out of the backfield. So, yeah, I'm like, I think he's going around 7. I think that's about right. I feel like I drafted him a little bit, but like not too much. I've drafted a lot of Tyrone Tracy recently. Not only is Cam Scatabo injured, but there was a report from one of the good reporters at ESPN, Jordan Renan, who said that like Tracy is locked in as the RB1 there, and Scatabo wasn't even going to be much of a factor in the offense this year. And I just went back to like think about how many times I saw Scatabo drafted round 7 or round 8 in best ball, and every time that happened, I'm like, okay, sure, have fun. I don't understand why you're doing this, but okay. I never got that. So anyway,
well,
yeah, go ahead.
In fairness, though, I could see that being a situation where, I agree with that. I think it was always going to be Tracy to start the year, but I could see a situation where, there's some sort of a transition with that running back 1 role at some point in, October or November, and Scatabo could potentially end up being, the starter toward the later part of the season. But I like Tracy a lot for where he goes as well.
Yeah, I just feel like if Scatabo is going like round 11, I would get that. But he was going like round 7, round 8. That was insane to me. Okay, so do we go back? I was like, for a second, I'm like, wait, this is not best ball. I shouldn't be drafting my quarterback here. My second quarterback, I should say. Um, you know what? Like we can wait on tight end. That's not draft tight end yet. All right, I'm between two players. Let me check their ADPs. So I take the earlier one. All right, we're going with Josh Downs. I'm sorry if I sniped you, Mike. I know you said Josh Downs was a favorite player of yours in this range. I like him a lot too. Although in was it yesterday's video, you said that you were slightly down on Downs now because another Colts receiver had emerged. Adonai Mitchell has had a great camp. But I still think Downs is going to be really good. I feel like they can both play at the same time. So, any thoughts on Downs? Are you still like the pick, or are you just completely out on him?
No, I really like the pick in the 8th round. I had Downs way ahead of his ADP. I had him, I think, in the 6th round. So I really like that pick, this late. My whole point that I was making yesterday is if something happens where AD Mitchell, and I'll make my pick here, this is going to be controversial as well. So if something happens with AD Mitchell where he breaks out this year, Alec Pierce is still going to have his few games where he has, 3 catches for 100 yards. Michael Pittman's still pretty good. And then Tyler Warren's definitely going to be a part of this passing offense where you still have Jonathan Taylor and Anthony Richardson running the ball. So I kind of made the parallel to Lamar Jackson where I said, if you look at the best case scenario for Anthony Richardson, it's Lamar Jackson. And it's not even what Lamar Jackson did last year. It's what Lamar Jackson did in like a regular year. Lamar Jackson was out of this world last year. Anthony Richardson's not going to be that. But even last year, with by far more touchdown passes, by far more passing yards, Lamar Jackson only supported 1 wide receiver 3 and 1 sort of low-end tight end 1. So keeping that in mind, Anthony Richardson's not going to be able to support all these targets. And it's just a matter of kind of taking these guys at a cost where that's palatable. I can live with Josh Downs in the 8th round. I like that bet there because he could be a wide receiver 2 or 3 in that offense. But that's kind of what kind of took me off of him in the 6th or 7th round.
You know what? Like he and I'm used to seeing like Downs and Higgins as the last viable receivers in best ball until like it completely falls off a cliff, that position. So I'm used to taking Downs a lot, but you are right. Like I would rather have Daniel Jones throwing to Downs just because, he's not going to run as much. You talked about it. So I still think that like he's the receiver to own there. Obviously they have a tight end too, but I much prefer him over Pittman and Pierce. Like Pierce I like in the 15th round at best ball, or 14th, 15th round at best ball, especially with Richardson. But still, he is the best receiver on that wide receiver on the team. So you are up. So you want to make this pick and then talk about Judkins. You didn't talk about him yet.
So Mason was a stain on my roster. I did not mean to do. I was trying to cue him. I like Mason. I could play him in my running back 2 spot early in the season. I would have taken him a little bit later. Judkins, of course, isn't in camp, but this isn't best ball, right? This is a lineup league where I'm happy to keep this guy on my bench. And if he comes back, that's high upside. And speaking of that,
oh man,
I'm going Scatterbo here for what I mentioned earlier. Tyrone Tracy's the guy, and I could see that potentially changing later in the year. And this is the point where I like to start taking these high upside running backs. And he's a high upside handcuff running backs. And he's a high upside handcuff running back that doesn't necessarily need the starter to get injured in order to take over.
Yeah. Any concerns about the injury?
No, I mean, it sounds like he's going to be back relatively soon before the season starts. My strategy is sort of this. You know, I've got 4 receivers. I'm assuming we probably play 4 receivers in this league. And those 4 receivers are pretty locked in. And then, Bowers is going to give me the weekly positional advantage at tight end. And then I've got Henderson, which I feel pretty good about. And after that, I want a whole bunch of high upside handcuff running backs. And maybe I get 2 weeks out of one guy or 3 weeks out of another guy or a week here or there, or maybe I strike gold and one of these starters gets hurt, or Judkins, gets cleared before the season starts and takes over as the starter in week 3 or 4, and is the starter for the for the rest of the season.
I'm having a heart attack looking at this draft. Is it because why are you saying no? I feel like it could be for multiple reasons. I lost out Correndo, I lost out on Egbuka, I lost out on Pearsall. Like, these are all my top drafted guys. Or you could be looking at like so many sketchy picks that were made by other people. So I don't know, like Cooper Kupp, for example, Chris Godwin. You tell me, Harmac, which direction are you going with the heart attack comment? Zach Charbonnet, I've been drafting him a lot lately. It's kind of dawned on me that I think that Kenneth Walker might be traded this season. So he's in his contract year, and Seattle's not a good team. So it would make sense for them to trade him at the trade deadline to a team that really needs a running back. Also, Walker's dealing with an injury right now, and we saw him injured last year. So I think that he can miss some time, and if he does, it's going to be the Charbonnet show. And we saw him excel last year. I think there's a chance he could be a league winner in the second half of the year. So what are your thoughts on that pick?
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely a high upside handcuff. And, this is where I feel like here's the major difference from all of these best ball drafts that we've been doing.
Mm-hmm.
We don't need to worry about like, all right, well, if I've got Charbonnet, he might only get 5 or 6 touches per week, and he might, he's not going to have a lot of potential to hit my lineup. You're thinking about what you just said, where, okay, if the starter gets hurt, he is no doubt in my lineup. Right, running backs in fantasy football, sure, it helps if they're talented, of course, but it's really just their production is based more on opportunity than any other position. So, the parallel I always make is when you get to this point in the draft, who are the guys where if the starting running back is, he tears his ACL going to get, a cup of water at midnight right now, who are the guys who are going to bump up to be in the 3rd, 4th, 5th round of redraft leagues? And, Charbonnet is certainly one of them.
Yeah, for sure. I just think he has amazing upside. Same thing with Correndo. You could say about Scatterbo if he is healthy and Tracy goes down. Yeah, I mean, I would not take, and look, we had this discussion before. I would not take the veterans who are just starters by default right now, like Ramondre Stevenson. I think ATN's another one. I think those are terrible picks, just because like they're going to be replaced, and they're not that good to begin with anyway. So, I am up right now. I'm going to take a guy. We had some news tonight, and I don't know if anyone has seen it, because not too many people follow this guy. And I'm going to take Ray Davis here. I don't know if like how legit this is going to be, but I trust the person who tweeted this out. It's I don't know if you ever heard of Scott Barrett from Fantasy Points. He follows me on Twitter. He's I'm a big fan of his content. There's a lot of bad content out there. You touched on that briefly yesterday. And you didn't mention anyone, so I mean, you don't have to go look back at the video just for that comment. But there are a lot of bad. There's a lot of bad content out there, and a lot of it's pumped. Like you also touched on this too. Like it's fake views. Like people like pay for their views. Like I feel like a lot of channels do this, and so you see like crappy content with like 40,000 views. It's like, is that legit? I don't think it is, So anyway, but like Scott Barrett actually like does produce good content. It's pretty rare out there to see, but he does. He has sources out there. He has sources with teams. And he tweeted out like an hour ago saying that the Cowboys are trying to trade for James Cook right now. So I don't know if it's going to happen. Like I said, maybe it doesn't happen, but that is at least what they're trying to do at the moment. So, any thoughts on that? And obviously, if Cook is traded, Davis is going to look great.
Yeah. So Scott was in one of my dynasty leagues, one of the leagues I actually run, by the way,
Okay.
back a while ago. He actually brought up though that he was joking about the James Cook thing.
Was he really?
Yeah, he was making fun of the accounts that you were talking about.
Okay.
That,
Okay.
like that Dove Kleeman guy or whoever that
Oh God,
the NFL Rookie Watch, where they're like breaking rumor: Tyler Lockett was a virgin until he was 30. It's like, all right, I mean, we don't need to do this. But yeah, so he said that he was actually joking about that.
Okay, well, I wish you put that in the same tweet.
Yeah.
I still like Ray Davis though. Like I've been drafting him. He is actually, he is my fifth highest exposed running back in best ball. So it's not like I just drafted him here, just because that thing. Like I think there's a legit chance that Cook goes down because he's not practicing right now. He's holding in. And plus we saw what Davis is capable of last year, where he started that game against the Jets and just went nuts. You're up, by the way. Okay, he took Bashaw Tootin. So regardless of that, there is a chance like Cook is moved. Like I could see that happening. Now, granted, a team would have to pay him what he wants to be paid, which I don't see happening, but that is a realistic possibility that could happen. Or like I said, maybe he gets hurt. So that's why I've been drafting Davis a lot. My fifth highest exposed running back. So any other further thoughts on that, or also Tootin as you just drafted?
Yeah, Ty Johnson in that offense just has such an annoying role. He's the 2-minute back, he's the third down back, and he catches a lot of passes. And I just feel like if maybe hopefully I don't hope Ty Johnson gets hurt, but if Ty Johnson were to ever get injured, you're looking at the passing down role for both James Cook and Ray Davis would really improve. And all of a sudden that Bills running back position would be a lot more valuable in fantasy football.
Yeah. That's definitely true. So we had Tyler Warren go. I'm kind of upset Tyler Warren was taken there. Although Armac, I really don't recommend two tight ends. Maybe Mike, you can shed some light on this, or you disagree. In best ball, yeah, I mean you want to take two tight ends, but in redraft, I don't know. Unless you're taking a deep sleeper, like why take Ingram at 8-11? You could just get Warren at 10-11. You could take someone else there, or take Ingram and don't take Warren. I get it. Like if you take a tight end early in round 13, round 14, you take a deep sleeper, like an Elijah Arroyo, for example. That would make more sense late, but in the middle rounds, I'm not a big fan of that. But maybe I'm wrong. Mike, what do you make of this strategy?
Yeah, I don't mind it. So you've got to be done with two, right? Like you've got to. Yeah. You can't draft a third one. But I look at what he did with Ingram and Warren, and I see a lot of upside with both of them. Mm-hmm. And I also see some potential there for, I see some potential there for, some disappointment. Because right now everybody's looking at Evan Ingram and expecting a huge bump up from what he did last year with the Jaguars and that Broncos offense. Well, maybe that doesn't happen. And if it doesn't, you've got Tyler Warren. And then Tyler Warren, everybody's looking at that and saying, well, this is the Gronk of the Colts. So, maybe he does that, and maybe he doesn't because he's a rookie tight end, and rookie tight ends rarely produce. And you've got Evan Ingram. So I don't mind it as much, especially this late. These picks in this range, you don't have to hit on all of them. But certainly, if one of those two tight ends ends up finishing top 5 overall, that's going to make a big difference for him and, be a huge advantage. And even if the other one is a complete bust. I took Javonte Williams right there, even though I hate Javonte Williams, because if you look at my team, I accidentally drafted Jordan Mason in the 7th round when I was trying to add him to my queue. Now I could play Jordan Mason. I mentioned he's going to be like the sort of co-starter with Aaron Jones, but it sounds like Javonte Williams is going to be the starter for the Cowboys. So early in the season, I'd like to have at least some options who are going to score points in this fictional league.
Mm-hmm.
And so I could throw Javonte Williams in there as my running back too, and until I wait for one of these other higher upside guys to sort of either break in or for their starter to get injured.
I went with Drake May. I usually don't love going two quarterbacks. I feel like quarterback tight end, you can easily take one, especially if you take one early. But I feel like Drake May is a special sort of case where he has so much upside that if like he emerges as an elite quarterback option, I would if this were a real league, I would be able to trade one of either Hurts or May and then get something substantial to strengthen one of the other positions. So I'm definitely on board with drafting Drake May in the 11th round. So do you like May as much, or do you like some other later round quarterbacks instead?
No, I love Drake May. As a matter of fact, I almost took him there. I had him queued up and I was going to draft him. But, I think I made the point earlier about how many quarterbacks there are that I like in the mid to late rounds this year. I figured I would sort of let it go because if he got picked, there are other guys that I'm comfortable with, but he would have been my pick in the next round had he made it back.
Armac saying there's nothing of value to me there. Yeah, I agree, Armac. Just like looking at the options, I definitely agree with the Warren pick now. It's pretty bleak. Hopefully, when we draft for real, it's an easier draft, which I find to be the case. Like when you're in a real draft, like you get some funky picks. Like there's this one guy in the main league that I do. He is this guy just he looks at my sleepers page. I know this because he always drafts my top sleeper, but he drafts him like insanely early. Like last year, Brian Thomas Jr. is my number one sleeper. His ADP was like 10.08 or something. He drafted him in the 4th round. Back in 2018, Patrick Mahomes, my top sleeper. I love Mahomes, entering the NFL. I thought he was going to be an amazing quarterback. I had him again, ADP was round 10. He took him in the 4th round. Every single year, it's like clockwork. He just looks at my sleeper page and takes the top guy in the 4th round. I feel like just to spite me, so I don't get him, but it makes sure he does. What ends up happening is like his team is good because he has the sleeper, but he just doesn't have enough depth because he reaches on players, and so he like never makes the playoffs. But he's like always on the cusp of making the playoffs. So anyway, like the real drafts will be easier unless you're in an experts league or something. And then again, like not even all the experts are that good. Like we talked about how much bad content there is out there. There's a guy, I was not his real name, but I call him Mr. Jump Cuts. I don't know if that, if you've seen his videos, if you have, you'll know who I'm talking about by saying Mr. Jump Cuts. There's like everything he says is like a jump cut. It's like something he says a sentence and like jump cut to something else and like jump cut to something else. And it uses like AI to break up his videos, and like it's so aggravating to listen to. But I do listen because he has somehow a large following. And if anyone has a large following, I'll listen because people will be listening to them and they'll do what he says. So I think there is some value to that, just knowing what people are going to do.
Yeah, but that happened on Twitter yesterday. I was talking to somebody. It's like Ashton Genty should be going 7th or 8th in the draft. And I said, well, he had 400 touches in college last year. This isn't a regime in Las Vegas that, has been there for 4 years and desperately need to win. You should troll him and put, yes, that's good advice for that.
People have, but people have suggested that to me in the past. Like on the day of your draft, really screw up your rankings to screw over everyone else. And I'm like, you know what? If the league were like a $10,000 buy-in, sure, but like even if it's like a $200 buy-in, it's like not worth it to compromise myself, So I won't do that. So keep on going with you were saying on Twitter with Genty and the cards.
I was just saying, like, we're kind of like part of the old guard where we've been watching football for the last 30 years. We're not, and there's no way that John Spytek and the rest of that organization didn't sit down after they invested the 6th overall pick on a running back and said, all right, we need to make sure that we manage this guy's reps this year. we can't give him 350, 400 touches this year because then he'll be at 750 or 800 touches in 2 seasons.
It's crazy.
This is not like a guy who if you draft a running back in the 4th round and, circumstances lead to you giving him 350 touches and starter gets hurt, whatever. Who cares? He's a 4th round pick. That's all you invested in him. When you're taking this guy with the 6th pick in the draft, you've got to be careful. And you look at the teams that weren't. Well, Dave Gettleman was stuck in 1994 when he drafted Saquon Barkley, and he ran him into the ground. And his rookie year was the best year he ever had with the Giants. After that, he was hurt every year. Zeke Elliott, that was a different circumstance, right? And that's kind of going back to a different era too, where running backs were valued a lot more than they are now. But the Cowboys were 13-3 his rookie year, so it was a different deal. I'll stop complaining about that now. But yeah, some people don't know what they're talking about, but they have the masses listening to them. So after a while, I just stopped talking, and I was like, you know what? That's fine. If Ashton Genty's going to be going 6th or 7th overall when I'm doing all my drafts, then that's good for
me. I know. Like why convince these people that they're wrong when they're clearly wrong? It just that doesn't make any sense to me. Like Genty going that early, feels like people are just making the same mistakes they did a couple of years ago with Bijan. Like people were drafting Bijan super early, like even first half of the first round. And at the time, I thought maybe it makes sense, but I think some of those people may have learned their lessons, but clearly some haven't. They're just not going to completely rely on Bijan right away, Genty right away. It's just something that's not going to happen. I took Colson Loveland. Feels like I don't think I've ever drafted him in best ball because he's always going like round 10 or round 11. And like he goes round 12 here. I was even considering him at 11:08. But I like Drake May better. But the other options sucked, as we said, as I told Armax said, and I agreed. So, I mean, I still need my tight end. So Loveland was the best pick there. You took Brock Purdy. So want to talk about that one. Is that your starting quarterback? Yeah, it is. So want to talk about Brock Purdy?
So way off the board, and that doesn't look good, right? Like it's like, wow, how is Brock Purdy the starting quarterback on this fantasy team? But he's been a top 12 quarterback by points per game each of the last 2 years. You've talked a lot about how he's got a schedule this year that's very favorable. And this is a team where the defense isn't going to be quite as good as it's been in years past. They've been decimated a little bit by free agency. So there's no reason to believe that he won't be top 12 again. Now, the one thing I'll say is, since I'm drafting a quarterback and I waited until the 12th round here, I'm going to follow that up by taking another quarterback, which is not ideal, in a redraft league like this, but it's going to allow me to play the matchups and, hopefully get one guy in there each week that I think has a chance to be top 12.
I will say though, this is for some reason only 15 rounds, so I don't know if that affects your strategy, but it does make sense to take 2 quarterbacks if you wait that late. I've said before that I don't think you need to take 2 quarterbacks, especially if you take one early like Hurts. But if you're drafting late like this, then you can do matchups and stuff like that. Although Purdy has great matchups almost every week. It's like the easiest schedule I've ever seen in my life. Like their toughest game is at Houston. It's just or if you think the Buccaneers are going to be really good at Tampa, but like Tampa's defense is not good anyway. So feels like Purdy should do well in that game at least. At least the offense will do well in that game. So yeah, we had I think we had a comment here. Is that former Raiders GM Tom Telesco? It's so I like Purdy was debating him and Herbert. I like I've been drafting Purdy over Herbert, so it's pretty close. But yeah, you can go. I feel like it's almost a coin flip. You went Justin Fields. I want to talk about that at 13:05.
Yeah, he's a terrible actual quarterback. The Jets are going to be drafting a quarterback in the first round, 2026.
Yep.
But as long as he doesn't get benched, which he might, right? He might get benched for Tyrod Taylor at some point during the season, but as long as he doesn't, he's pretty much a lock to finish somewhere in the top 12 in points per game, just because he runs so much, and that's just the cheat code for your regular fantasy football quarterback scoring. Now, you can't really go by his points per game last year because he had games where he played, but he only played 3 snaps because the Steelers would bring him in with, Russell Wilson would run out for a couple plays and Fields would come in and run. So that destroyed his points per game. But you look at the games he actually did play, he's a safe bet to be a low end quarterback 1. And so this gives me, I completely ignored quarterback in this draft. And I still have 2 guys who will probably be toward the back end of the top 12. And Purdy was even higher than that, I believe. Was it last year or the year before? He I think was in the middle of the pack.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think you said it perfectly about Fields. If he's not benched, like, he's gonna be in the top 10 because of his running. Like, but he could be benched. It's just which is the problem, Yep. It's I don't know to make of the situation as far as him staying as the starter. I don't know. I feel like it can go either way, but he's struggling in camp right now. But it feels like when the live action starts and he can run around and stuff, I think that is usually when he's better. So Erod is about to run out of time here. I wanted either Jalen Wright and Braylon Allen. Both of them went, so I guess lesson learned. I should take my running back over a tight end, even though it's a starting tight end. Let's see here. I'm gonna go. I only have 4 running backs, so I need a 5th running back. It's not great options with those 2 guys gone, unfortunately. There's some okay guys you can take. I've drafted these guys in best ball before. I think I'm gonna go with my second highest owned running back in best ball, who is Will Shipley, because Saquon Barkley had a big workload last year. I don't think that's necessarily going to mean that he has regression or he's going to get injured, but there is risk there. And if he goes down or misses some time a little bit here and there, Shipley is going to be the starter. I'm not worried about Dillon. I think that AJ Dillon sucks. Shipley is so much better, and I think he's going to take Kenneth Gainwell's spot anyway, as far as the the playing sometimes on third down, which Gainwell did last year. But we saw, and also like in blowouts, Shipley could come in and rush for a 70-yard touchdown like he did against the Redskins in the NFC Championship. So, like I said, I wanted Wright and Allen, but I got Shipley instead. Also, I really wanted Dante Thornton, but Troy McClure took him at 10-10. How dare you, Troy? Just kidding. I have Dante Thornton more than any receiver in my best ball right now. By the way, it's like around 14, just lock him in. You're around 10 here, which is kind of wild, but at the same time, I still think it's gonna be pretty good. So we're about to enter the final 2 rounds here, which is typically left for kickers and defenses. Do you draft kickers and defenses in leagues where they don't make you do so?
Nope. I tried to do that in an FFPC draft one time, and they like invalidated my pick and gave me a random defense or something like that. Like after the next day. Oh, wow. But yeah, I think, maybe it's a small piece of strategy, but if you're drafting a redraft league and it's not 3 days before the season starts, you're better off just using those picks on players, right? Take backup running backs that, have a month left before the season starts, because maybe the starter will get injured. Austin Eckler is there. I look at Austin Eckler and I think, well, the Washington's got the rookie, the 7th-round rookie from Arizona, Krosky Merritt. And if he ends up continuing this early camp success on, that makes Austin Eckler expendable. And you look at a team like the Houston Texans. Okay, well, if Mixon's not there, or if he's injured for any substantial amount of time, Nick Chubb's dust. Dameon Pierce was run into the ground as a rookie. Woody Marks is a day 3 rookie. Maybe they go get Austin Eckler. Maybe he gets value. And if not, then who cares? You need a kicker and a defense anyway, so you have to drop 2 players.
Yeah. Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. Like if your commissioner doesn't make you draft these players, then don't draft your sleepers. You never know what can happen. Someone gets injured, someone gets cut. Like these are all surprising things that could happen. You said even like 3 days before, then that doesn't matter because like nothing's gonna happen in 3 days. You might as well just save yourself some time and get the kicker and defense. But if it's like a week plus out, then definitely try to go upside. So I kind of want to do that here, honestly, and I want to take a player you just mentioned. Kind of slipped my mind for a second because he's way down on this list, I believe. Let me try to find him. Um, as Marks is taken, I guess. Never mind.
Yeah, he got picked. Yep.
Okay, well, whatever. And then I'm gonna go defense. Talked about this. Talked about this defense. Well, you know what? I took who did I take last? I forget who I took. I took the Steelers defense yesterday, so let me try to differentiate. Let me go Vikings defense this time. And I'll go Vikings defense just because they played Caleb Williams in week one, Ben Johnson's first game. So typically new coaches don't do well in their first game. So I think the Vikings are a good defense to target in week one. I'm someone who rotates defenses. I never keep the same one. I just play matchups, and this dates back to Jake Plummer. I remember Jake Plummer with the Cardinals. Not Denver when he actually did well. Like Jake Plummer with the Cardinals, where he just led the league in interceptions nonstop. I would just play the defense going against Jake Plummer. That was my strategy, like the entire time, and it worked. So, thank you, Jake Plummer, for inventing this strategy.
Yeah, I like it, and I mean the Vikings defense. That's a good defense anyway. Even if you weren't going to stream that,
Yeah.
They signed Jonathan Allen this year. They had a couple other additions to that defense as well. They should be a really good team, which is it's funny because you go back to August 6th, August 7th of last year when people were projecting them to be picking first overall in the draft.
Yeah. What's your predicted points per game on Loveland PPR? I have that here. I can pull it up. Woody Mark. I don't know how I missed Woody Marks being gone. That was a great pick. Whoever made it. He is on. He was on Charlie's sleeper page for the NFL draft, and he caught a lot of passes in college. And Mixon's hurt, and Chubb is not explosive at all. So, okay. So for Loveland, I have let's see, 138. Hold on. Let me get out my trusty calculator here. 138 divided by 17. So 8.1 points per game. Okay. So you made some picks. You want to talk about them while I find my kicker?
Oh yeah, definitely. So I took Corum and I took Giddens. Jarquez Hunter is getting all kinds of hype because of a video that surfaced in May about Sean McVay being pumped up to take Jarquez Hunter in the fourth round. But they took Blake Corum in the third round last year. He's had a year to sort of learn the offense, get his pass protection. He didn't get a lot of practice pass protecting at Michigan. So he's got a year under his belt there. And again, Kyren Williams is the starter, but maybe Kyren Williams gets hurt before the season starts, and now Blake Corum is, on my team. And DJ Giddens, sort of the same deal. I'm not even convinced he's going to start the year as the handcuff. It could be someone like really boring, like a Khalil Herbert. But I don't want any part of Khalil Herbert. And if something happens to Jonathan Taylor between now and the season starting, DJ Giddens is definitely going to gain a lot of value. And I love Loveland, by the way. I think he's got a chance to top 8 points per game.
Yeah.
The review on him has been terrific. And there's our first fullback.
Well, that's the inside joke from SLU because Alec Ingold in week 3 last year had as many touches as Hill and Waddle combined. Some brilliant coaching from Mike McDaniel there in that loss to Seattle. Just was very tilting because I had a big bet on the Dolphins. So I took Jay Rohrwasser. It feels like a great kicker, at least a great name. So I don't even know who he is, but yeah, I got Woody 10th. A great pick. Great pick. I completely missed that. Not sure what I was doing. I think I was tilted by Thornton, and so I just didn't see Marks. So angry by Thornton that it just kind of clouded
Wait,
my vision there. Go ahead.
the PPR, the no PPR guy was playing the long game here. No PPR, but then he goes and takes the guy who caught like 400 passes in college. Well played. Well played.
Yeah, it ended up working out. Okay, so let's review these teams. Do you drafted before I did, so you want to talk about your team, then I'll talk about mine, and then we can look at these teams, and we'll skip team one because they're an auto draft.
Yeah, so my strategy, as I mentioned, is really simple. Bowers is one of the 2, maybe 3, if you squint, tight ends that are going to give you a weekly advantage at tight end. He's going to produce like some of these top receivers in the PPR league, and he goes into your tight end spot. And then I wanted to, just the way this draft shook out, where I took receivers in the 1st and 3rd with Lamb and Higgins. They both, Lamb has wide receiver 1 overall potential. Higgins is a pretty safe bet to be a top 12 wide receiver. I think he was wide receiver 2 last year overall in points per game because he missed the 5 games. And then Worthy and Adunze have a lot of upside. I feel really good about both of those guys being in the lineup. Now, I don't know if the lineup settings call for 3 or 4 receivers. Certainly, it's a little bit better. I think if you play, 3 receivers or, even if not, I want a receiver in my flex. I don't want a running back in my flex. And I really like those 4 receivers. And then since I end up waiting so long on running back, I feel really good about Henderson. I think he's going to have a role right from the start. He's probably a pretty good bet to finish as a top 15 running back, maybe top 12 if things break his way. And then Jordan Mason, I meant to queue and I drafted him super early, so don't hold that against me. But he'll again have a ton of upside if Aaron Jones gets hurt, but he'll have some weekly sort of value in that running back 2 spot, even if Jones doesn't get hurt. And then everything else you see after that is just upside at running back. I brought it up earlier. If Judkins comes back in August, then his ADP is going to rise, even though, I think week 1 is sort of out the window for him to be the starter at this point, but he could still be the starter by the end of September or October if he's in camp at some point soon. Scatterbo, he's injured right now, but I'm not looking for him to produce week 1. I'm looking for him to sort of take over as the year goes along. Same thing with Tootin. Everyone's like, oh, Tootin's 3rd on the depth chart right now. Devon Achane was 3rd on the depth chart this time during his rookie season, and he had a great rookie year. And Tootin's the same type of running back too. He's got that 4.3 speed. Javonte Williams is my one low upside. I don't like Javonte Williams at all, but I took so much upside here and misclicked Jordan Mason that I just wanted to make sure that I had a guy who was going to get me, through the first couple games of the season as someone who's actually going to play. And then, aside from the high upside at running back, Purdy and Justin Fields are both pretty safe bets to be back-end quarterback 1s. Purdy's got a great schedule, and Fields just has that running ability. Purdy has been a top 12 quarterback both of the last 2 years. And Fields is a top 12 quarterback whenever he's actually playing and not benched by some mediocre other marginal quarterback.
Mm-hmm. Who would you have taken instead of Mason? Because you said you picked him by accident.
Yeah, so if I had to go back here and do this again, Deebo Samuel's my pick right there.
Okay.
I would have taken Samuel over him. It sounds like he's looking like the Deebo Samuel of old, and that's not hard to believe because really last year he had pneumonia, and he wasn't himself after that. So I would be happy with him to bounce back, and I'd love to have that one extra sort of like high upside, safe wide receiver in case one of these other 4 who I drafted gets hurt or Adunze just doesn't pan out like I think he will. I would have also taken Golden there, obviously ahead of Jordan Mason. I think he was my wide receiver 1 in the actual NFL draft on our site's ranking. So I would have taken Golden, and let me just take another quick look at. I would have taken Olave over him. I would have taken Jacoby Myers over him. I would have taken Reed over him. And I think that's it. But I would have taken all of those wide receivers that I just mentioned over Mason. And then that would have given me that 5th option at wide receiver, just in case one of the other 4 didn't work out or got hurt.
Okay. Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah, it feels like people are hating on Debo too much, and it seems like almost too easy to do, because you could just look at his production last year after, like, what was it, week 9 or week 8, whatever it was, that, he had pneumonia, but like pneumonia is a big deal. And just like whenever I hear these like fantasy shows talk about, oh, don't draft Debo Samuel, he sucked last year, it's like, well, I mean, did you even want to mention the pneumonia? It's like it's kind of a thing. So I like that. I've been drafting him more recently, especially because I've been drafting Jaden Daniels more recently, because his ADP dropped a little bit, and I think that's because of the McLaurin holdout. But I'm not like too concerned about that. So my team started double running back the Achane and Irving. Hopefully they stay healthy. Hopefully Achane stays healthy. He's a little brittle, but I'm not like too concerned with that. I think that's a great 1-2 punch of running back. Then I went heavy at receiver with Harrison, Metcalf, Hunter, Golden, Downs. If I had to redo this, I think I'd want a better third running back than Charbonnet, who's like currently not a starter. same thing with Ray Davis. But I think I would go maybe Jaden Blue instead of Josh Downs, and then take Charbonnet, and then maybe a 10:05 I'd take Thornton. I think if I had to redo that, that's what I would do. But I didn't envision Troy sniping Thornton that early, but I guess I should expect it, because like I said, people take my sleepers super early. I think Thornton is going to be my number 1 sleeper as of tomorrow when my sleepers are updated. And so that guy I talked about in my league, he's going to take Thornton in the 4th round. Like, I can already feel it. So I'm not going to get him, but like, if I could get him at a reasonable spot, then, hopefully I get him there. But, 10th round, I feel like that might be where he ultimately ends up. Especially if he continues to shine. And if he has like a great preseason game, it might be earlier than that. Jalen Hurts, great quarterback 1. Drake May, tons of upside. Loveland, think he's a good value in 12th round. And then Rohrwasser is going to win this league for me. I could feel it. All right. So let's look at these teams. Armac was drafting at 2. He also went double running back early with Robinson, Kyron Williams. London Sutton, Smith Igbuka. He sniped me. I think Igbuka is a great pick there. He did that thing with the 2 quarterbacks, 2 tight ends, which again I'm not a big fan of. But when he made a great point, and I soon saw it after when I was on the clock. There's like really nothing there, so it made sense to do that. The only pick I can't get behind is Brandon Ayuk. Like, he's not going to play until like week 9 or week 10. Like, he's coming off a torn ACL and MCL. Now, if there's an IR spot, then sure, take Ayuk and stash him on the bench. But I really don't think he's going to do much this year. So I don't like that. I didn't like Eckler either. Just don't think he has the upside. But I like this team overall. What do you think about it?
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind the Ayuk pick as much. In best ball, I don't want any part of him. But in a league like this, I think it's fair to assume that Armac thought, like, all right, well, most of these leagues have IR spots, so I'm going to draft him. I'm going to stash him on IR. I'm going to pick somebody else up off of waivers immediately. And, then you have a pretty decent 3rd or 4th wide receiver if he comes back before Halloween. Give him a couple weeks to, get his feet wet, and then maybe he's back in your lineup. You're not really worried like in best ball where he's just a 0 until he gets back. Start with those running backs. I mean, you have the potential. He's got the potential to have running back 1 overall and running back 2 overall. And he got them, he got in the first couple rounds. That's a great way to start, in my opinion. And then Drake London in the 3rd round, that's just too low for Drake London. As soon as Michael Penix took over last year, Drake London just started getting peppered with targets. And Mooney's hurt. And even when Mooney comes back, I mean, Drake London is the guy there. He really broke out toward the end of last year. what a phenomenal pick. You know how much I love Devontae Smith. He does not belong in the 5th round. For me, he's an end of the 3rd round pick. And, I know I could get him in the 4th round. 5th round is just a steal. He would have been my pick had he made it back to me. And Ibuka's your guy. And I love he did the same thing with the late round quarterbacks. I might have taken different late round quarterbacks. I feel like everything kind of went Bo Nix's way last year. And it wouldn't surprise me to see him take a little bit of a step back, but I don't hate that. The only pick there that I really have a problem with is I'm having a really hard time understanding why Cortland Sutton in all of these leagues, in best ball, everywhere I'm saying FFPC, everywhere, he's going in that late 4th, 5th round range. He had his best year last year, which was only, I think, 13.9 points per game, which is not really anything spectacular. And again, I just mentioned the Broncos, their offensive line stayed healthy. Their offensive line was amazing pass blocking. And now they brought in Engram. They brought in, a better running back. They drafted Pat Bryant. Troy Franklin sounds like he's made a jump. Marvin Mims could, probably not, but he's got the potential to maybe take a little bit of a step forward. I just can't understand Cortland Sutton in the 4th or 5th round. It just doesn't make any sense. So I don't know what your thoughts are on Sutton.
I don't mind Sutton. I should say Armac is a Broncos fan, so that might have aided that pick there. And if Armac, I know you're in the chat, or at least you were recently, so you might want to chime in there. I think Sutton belongs to like mid round 5, late round 5, something like that. I don't hate him too much. He's the receiver 1 there, and I think Nix is going to be better. But then again, the points you make are definitely true, and he's 30 now, so plus he got paid as well. So I'm not super high on him. I'm not taking him that often, but occasionally in best ball he slips to like late round 5, and then he might be the top receiver I have there. But I'm not drafting him too often. But then again, I don't really hate it either. So yeah, we had a couple questions. The boss, would you rather have Hunter over Pearsall? Yeah, it's close. I think I'd rather have Hunter over Pearsall. But what do you think? Would you rather have Hunter or Pearsall?
That is close. Hunter's more talented, but he's got to actually play a lot of wide receiver. That's a toss up. That's one where you've just got to go with your gut on it. I think I might go Pearsall, but that's kind of like the boring opinion. Hunter's a better receiver. Just has to play receiver enough for that to matter.
Yeah. Also, Jacque May, whatever. Have at the 108. Would you rather take running back first and then receiver? And then Neighbors 108, and then take Chase Brown, JT or Bucky at 205. I like that. But you can go HN and then take those running backs as well and go double running back, which is what I did. So I'd prefer that option. I love Neighbors, but the toe injury scares me a little bit. If it's like late in the year, the Giants are gonna be awful this year. Late in the year, they might be like, okay, let's shut you down, just because this toe injury is problematic. Get like an early surgery on it, just get a head start on that. That worries me a tad. And obviously, you don't want to be missing your top pick in the fantasy playoffs. So, what would you think? Go ahead.
One sort of counterpoint on the Neighbors thing, though. So you're right. The toe injury is a little bit concerning. He's still dealing with that. But even though they're going to be bad, if you take a look at that organization's standing, so you're going to have one of two situations. Either they're pretty bad, but not completely bad, and Brian Dable and Joe Shane are still there. And then in that situation, I feel like they're like, all right, well, yeah, we're out of it, but I could see them sort of being in that situation where they're like, all right, well, if we win our last 4 games and every other team in the NFC loses, we might make the playoffs with 9 wins, because they're coaching and GMing for their jobs. And the other situation would be they've already been fired, right? I'm looking at I'm looking at October 9th. It's a Thursday night game against the Eagles. They have a tough start to the schedule, and they're probably going to lose. They're going to be like 2-4, something like that. And that's where they might get a little bit of leeway to say, all right, well, now we're going to go to Jackson Dart. Okay, we have the Thursday night game. We've got 10 days till our next game. We're going to go to Jackson Dart, and maybe he's going to save our jobs. And if that doesn't work and they still all get fired by Halloween, then I think you're potentially looking at the interim head coach, pulling one of these Antonio Pierce type situations where he's trying to, get his foot in the door. And you know what I'm saying? Like sometimes these interim coaches and these coaches who are on the hot seat, they want to win games and as many games as they can, especially when the GM's in the same situation, just so they could save their jobs. And that might make them a little bit less likely to shut neighbors down.
Yeah, that makes sense. That does make sense. Although, I mean, if he's like has issues with it, then I could see them pulling. I don't know. I could see you being correct though. It really just depends on the situation. But anyway, let's get to the Oh, we had team three. Team three went double receiver to start with Jefferson, Jack Smith, and Jigba. That's a little early for Jigba. He usually goes like mid to late third round, sometimes early fourth round. Then Josh Allen's a fine pick. Kittle's a fine as well. Not a fan of Connor, just because he said himself that it's gonna be a 1A 1B committee with Trey Benson. We talked about Caleb Johnson. I love Tracy there. Kelsey. Man, he drafted Kittle 4 rounds earlier. There's no need for Kelsey, and it's not like he's good value there. Like Kelsey just seems like he's done. I do like Bigsby and Thornton. I love those picks, but then again, I hate Chubb and Betch. Just like Chubb just has no explosion. Betch is having an awful training camp and awful go of it so far with the Raiders. So, I mean, I don't really love this team. There's some upside with Jefferson, Allen, and Tracy and Thornton could be a monster. We'll see. Bigsby solid, but like seems like there's too many holes at this team.
Yeah, so I like obviously I don't mind one early round quarterback or one early round tight end. It's really tough to pull off both of those though and still have a competitive team because they also have to hit, right? Quarterback's a volatile position. Tight end's actually a pretty volatile position too. And if you're taking them this early, Josh Allen's got to be a top 3 quarterback. Okay, maybe he will be. George Kittle's got to be a top 3 tight end. We'll see on that. He's getting older. The Connor pick, I could justify it by looking at that board and saying, all right, he's got no running back and look at what's left there. There's not a lot left on the board. So maybe he's saying, all right, if Connor can hold it together for one more year, and maybe he's just trying to sort of prop up Benson by talking him up, saying he's going to be more of a factor this year. Maybe that could work out. And then I like Tracy later. But yeah, you're right with the Raider receivers. Look, I like Thornton. I think you hit gold getting him in all those best ball drafts where you did. But I also like him a lot more in best ball. I think that, on a daily or on a weekly basis, I don't know if you're going to want to put Dante Thornton in your lineup, right? Maybe toward the end of the season, but week 1, you're probably not penciling him in. You're probably not going to feel good about it in the beginning of the season. And then Thornton and Besh in a shallow redraft league, I don't see how you can roster both of them at the same time when Trey Tucker might be the third receiver there. So yeah, I don't love this team. I agree a little bit early for Jackson Smith and Jigba, and I even think it's arguably early for Jefferson, with the hamstring injury and CeeDee Lamb still on the board.
Yeah, I mean, imagine if Jefferson's out with the hamstring week 1. So his starting receivers would be Jack Smith and Jigba and Thornton. And if you have to go 3 receivers, Besh, he only has 4 receivers on this team, which is you need more than 4 receivers. So don't draft Kelsey around 8. Like even if you take a tight end earlier, Kelsey's just a waste there. So take another receiver instead. Take Mooney, Pittman, Thornton. Well, he took Thornton, but like take someone else. I can't get behind that pick at all. All right, so kid no name out of the 4 spot. He took Barkley, Jacobs, great start. McConkey in the 3rd round is solid. Despite the Keenan Allen signing, he was going. Like 2 months ago, he's going like 201, 202, which I thought a little too early, but now seems like good value. So Swift's a great 3rd running back. Adams steal in 504. He's usually going like 311, 312. So that's great value. I think Addison a little too early, 609, considering the suspension. But he made it up with Pearsall, great pick. I like Andrews at 904. Love what he marks. Shaheed, I don't know. I feel like some people are higher on him. I want to stay away from the Saints situation. But I do like Braylon Allen here. Keenan Allen, nice pick in round 14. So I like this team overall. What do you think about this team?
Yeah, I mean, this guy knows what he's doing. I know he was in the chat earlier. I don't know. He got a little bit lucky with Ladd McConkey being there in the 3rd round, middle of the 3rd round too. But that was a great pick. I don't like Devontae Adams, but he got him in the 5th round. That's great value there. Pearsall, Addison's got that 3-game suspension, but it's the first 3 games of the season. That's not a big deal. I love Andrews where he got him. Dobbins is going to see the field. He's going to have some sort of role there. RJ Harvey's not going to be like a bell cow. Guys like, Tariq Cohen almost. I like this team a lot. If I had to say anything, and first let me give him another compliment. You could I like that he went late round quarterback. You could very, very easily say that Kyler Murray should have been my pick when I took Brock Purdy right before him. I mean, that was a great pick right there. The one thing that stands out to me, the only negative thing here is DeAndre Swift in the 4th round. I think Roschon Johnson might end up being the lead back there from week 1. Okay. So Swift, I don't like that pick, but I really love everything else he did. Great job.
Good team. So we did your team. That was the 5 spot. Bagley from the 6th spot. He went 4 running backs in the first 5 rounds with Henry, Cook, Hubbard, and Mixon. When he made the pick of Hubbard, I was like, oh, great pick. He's going to be the Dallas running back. But little did I know that I'd be misled by that tweet. So I think Cook with the hold in is a concern. But I can't get behind Mixon. He has the foot injury. I think he's going to miss a lot of time this year. Don't draft injured players. Like, you're going to suffer enough injuries during the season. Like, don't take a guy who's already injured. And I think Mixon's a falling knife at this point. If you're in a stocks and whatnot, it's kind of like I did a draft with Kenny offline. And Mixon was going like round 5. And then Kenny, who's unfortunately he drafted like 47% Mixon. It just feel bad for him. And then like Kenny was like, I'm definitely not drafting Mixon. No way. And then Mixon fell to round 8 and Kenny's like, I have to take him here. Took Mixon again. I'm like Kenny's a falling knife. Like he's going to go later. And like, lo and behold, Kenny texts me a couple days later. It's like Mixon fell to round 11. I had to take him. like how low is this guy going to go? So round 5 is way too early for Mixon. But I don't like the Detroit players either. So I can't get behind Laporta, but I love Samuel. Higgins is great. Shakir, I'm not a Shakir guy, but you can maybe talk me into it. Sampson, solid pick there. Herbert's a starter, so quality pick there. So good team overall. Just down on the Mixon and Laporta picks in rounds 5 and 6, and but overall good team. What do you think about the team?
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit of a mixed bag for me. Derrick Henry, that's just dependent on whether or not he was looking at this as a non-PPR league or a PPR league.
PPR.
Taking Gibbs, but he wanted to. Okay, all right, yeah. So personally, I would have taken McCaffrey. I would have taken Jonathan Taylor. I would have taken A-Chain. I would have taken Chase Brown. I would have taken Genty. I would have taken a lot of players over Henry if it's a PPR league. But when you and Mixon, you're right about. I still think once you get to the 9th round, I don't mind Mixon there because you're starting to get to the range where you're drafting high upside handcuff running backs, and Mixon's got a chance to actually be the starter in week 1. So I don't mind him in the 9th round. I think the 5th round's kind of early. But, when I looked at this team, my first thought was, wow, well, you took 4 running backs in the first 5 picks. That's kind of overkill. But then, he kind of did a nice job accumulating some talent at receiver. You see, he took Deebo Samuel after that bum took Jordan Mason right before. I mean, what's that all about? I mean, Deebo Samuel's great value right there. Jaden Higgins got some upside. And Khalil Shakir is probably the most reliable receiver on the Bills. I know he's got the high ankle sprain right now.
Yeah.
And he might not be there for week 1. But, I like this team. I think it's pretty good. I think it could be really good if you had, Gibbs, like he mentioned, instead of Henry, and then a different pick instead of Joe Mixon.
Yeah. Yeah, so I like the team. Just a couple of issues there. I think Erod, who was drafting at the 7th spot, was on auto draft at the end because you see 3 quarterbacks, 3 tight ends. Mm-hmm. I think he was drafting until I think he wanted to troll me with Garendo. That's my theory. Just say Garendo. But I wouldn't have taken him here anyway because he is the injury and he's going later. He's actually going to like round 13, round 14 now instead of round 12. Then again, I was always the one taking him round 12, so maybe that's where he was always going. So I like the start. Like Gibbs, Taylor, Hampton's really strong. Rice, we'll see about the suspension. Like if Rice is not suspended, then he's struck gold in round 4. Pickens is okay. Waddle's the pyramid scheme is Butters would call him. Godwin's terrible. So like while this draft started very well, it just feels like it's regressed every round after that, except for Garendo and I guess Prescott. And I guess Goddard too. Goddard's okay. But then it just got worse. I do like Arroyo as a sleeper, but it's a solid pick, but then don't take a 3rd tight end. But obviously, this is auto draft, so we don't have to spend too much time on this team. What do you think about this team?
Yeah, I love the first 2 picks, but I really think it's hard in redraft to take 3 running backs to start your draft. Okay. I want a receiver in my flex spot. So the Hampton pick right there, he could have taken Harrison. He could have taken one of these other receivers, which would have made it his receiver room would be a lot safer because I think it's dicey taking both Rashee Rice and Godwin. I like Godwin a little bit more than you, but now you're looking at 2 of your 5 receivers are missing time. And so that's kind of dicey for me. But that Gibbs Taylor start was great. And another late round quarterback guy. Okay, I love Dak that late. Great pick.
Yeah. I actually, to defend Erod's real pick, I think I would have taken Hampton at 308. I think he's going to be a monster this year. But Najee Harris has no depth perception apparently. So feels like he could be like a league winner too in round 3. Like he could have round 1 value if he gets all the work in with the Chargers who have a great offensive line. He's going to get a lot of receptions. So I've said before I don't like the running back depth too much. I love your Henderson pick and I like Hubbard in round 4. But like once he gets to round 5 or later, there's not much I really like. Like Tracy 703 is probably my favorite pick after your Henderson pick. Swift, I like Swift more than you do, but you're right. Like he could be replaced. Pacheco, Pacheco usually goes round 7 too. So I think for that reason, just because the running back depth really dries up after round 3, that's why I would consider going triple running back to start. I'm usually not a fan of it either. I just think that this is kind of a special situation. So, so I when Hampton went off the board, I'm like, oh man, I would have taken Hampton there. But all right, so Slew at the 9 spot. He started with Neighbors, Chase Brown. That's an awesome start. Trey McBride. Well, I don't like because he goes like late round 2 in best ball, but late round 3 is a different story. That's a really good pick, and he was the last of the non-dead zone guys. So love that. Joe Burrow taking a quarterback in the dead zone is great. Aaron Jones, Brian Robinson Jr. not like big fans of them. Yeah, Jones sounds like he's going to split touches with Mason. Robinson just has been so underwhelming. I don't know. I love the Calvin Ridley pick. Pittman's solid. Coleman could be good. I don't really know what to make of Coleman. Just maybe the Shakir injury gives him a boost. Maybe they put him in the slot and he does well there. But I don't know what to make of Coleman. It just feels like the separation is not there. I do love these late round running backs though. Algier, Roshan, Hunter, like one of these guys might be a league winner for Slew. Quentin Johnson has potential and love the Ingold troll at the end. So what do you think of Slew's team?
Yeah, I love those first 4 picks. If I had to sort of give a negative on this team, for me, I just don't think there's enough upside with those mid-round running backs. And and really the mid-round receivers outside of Ridley. The Ridley pick is great, and that's what, the 6th round. I love that pick.
Yeah.
But Aaron Jones and Brian Robinson, they just don't have a lot of upside. They're going to get you through the beginning of the season, but then, who do you have to get you through the end of the season? Well, if Bijan or however you want to say his name gets hurt, then okay, maybe Algier. If Roshan Johnson takes over for Swift, and again, it's going to be a 2-back system either way, but if he's David Montgomery, then that looks pretty good, but he's not going to be the bell cow there, So I think maybe a little bit too safe with those mid-round running backs, even though they'll be fine in the beginning of the season. And then same with Keon Coleman and Michael Pittman. I know Coleman could have that second-year breakout. I just don't think he's ever going to separate, though. You kind of mentioned that. Michael Pittman, we talked about the Colts earlier. It's going to be hard for either one of those guys to be a consistent sort of wide receiver 3 that you feel really good about putting into your lineup.
Yeah, feels that way. All right, so I think Erod responded to us. He said first mock of the year was practicing. Okay, yeah, it makes sense. And will you guys do a mock in the future for standard scoring? Yeah, we're usually going to rotate. So one day standard, one day PPR. So we'll do that. I was thinking about Hampton at 3 or 6. I love Hampton. I'm trying to get Hampton as much as possible in round 3. I think he'll ultimately settle late round 2, ADP wise, by the end of the preseason. All right, so 3 more teams. Ken, 315 out of the 10 spot. He took McCaffrey and Genty, not my favorite running backs, but there is certainly upside there for sure. Can't ignore that. Wilson, I like Fields' running. Passing, I don't know. It feels like I think Wilson's going like a round too early to me. I don't hate the pick, but I don't love it either. But I do love Jane Daniels. Zay Flowers was someone I was debating about, like either Metcalf or Flowers. I like Flowers more in best ball because he has these crazy spike weeks. But I still think he's a good value of 5'10". Jameson Williams 603. I'm not a fan of Williams in best ball because he's going like round 4, early round 5, but early round 6 is kind of interesting. I'm just kind of out on Detroit in general though. Olave has a huge injury risk with concussions. And plus, he plays in a bad offense. I think this looks like great value, but I think it's misleading too. I'm out on all Saints players. Jaden Reed said before he doesn't play 3 and 2 receiver sets. He's gonna have some good games, but I feel like there are gonna be too many duds. ATN, don't draft ATN. He stinks. Spears is okay. And Joku, again, I'm not touching Browns players. I don't want Browns players. I don't want Saints players. Benson has some upside. Kirk feels like just a wasted pick. There's not much upside. Brooks could be something if Chase Brown goes down. I think there's a reason why they they cut Zach Moss. Well, it might be injuries too, but Brooks is reportedly looking good, and he was also on Charlie's draft sleepers list. So I think he's interesting late in drafts. So a few picks I don't like here. I'm not like crazy about this team. What do you think about this team?
Yeah, I actually really like this team. I like McCaffrey at 10. I think he could be running back 1 overall. I have him slightly over Gibbs. Genty, you heard me talk about how I don't love Genty this year. Yeah, I take Taylor over him. I take, a couple of these running backs who I think are going to get more touches than him. But I like Genty where he took him. I was talking about the people who are taking him in the first round, like where you took like A-Chain or where Gibbs went. I think that's too high for Genty. Garrett Wilson, I'm with you on Garrett Wilson. I think he's getting a little bit overrated because Justin Fields is like such a bad passer and people aren't accounting for that. But now this is the end of the 3rd round. Here's a guy who's been going, closer to the beginning of the 3rd round. I don't mind that pick at all. You get Daniels, there's your quarterback. And I really like these receivers that he took in the middle of the draft. Jameson Williams, upside. And if he doesn't work out, I like Olave there. I think, again, Kellen Moore is going to run a lot of plays. If Tyler Shuck ends up being the starter, and it sounds like Rattler might be the starter as of right this second, which would be bad. But Olave gets a lot of targets. And, he's got injury upside. He's got a concussion issue. But, he's getting him as the wide receiver 4 there. And I'm a big fan of Reed. I know he doesn't play in the two receiver sets, but I heard something today. It's Theo. I'm going to mess up his last name. Reminger, I think. One of the big fantasy people. I really respect this guy on Twitter. And he was talking about how before Jordan Love hurt his groin toward the end of last season, Jaden Reed in the 5 games before that was averaging 18 and a half points per game. And, he doesn't even need to come anywhere close to that to justify where he took him. So I actually kind of really like this team. And Njoku, yeah, it's nothing special, but he got him late. So I don't mind that either.
And Joko always looks good, and then I'm like, oh wait, his quarterback might be a 5'10" guy. So I don't know, man. But the talent is certainly there. If you promise me Flacco all year, then I would be in on Joko. I just don't see that happening, unfortunately. So Butters at the 11th spot. So he went Collins, Thomas. I've done that a bunch in best ball, taking those two guys. I think Collins scares me a little bit because the offensive line is a big concern. Collins has an injury history, and I don't know what happened to Stroud earlier. That he had apparently some sort of shoulder issue. Maybe that went away. But I do remember that report. That was being widely reported for a while. So I do love Thomas, though. So Hall, I mean, Butters, unfortunately, was in the unfortunate spot of drafting late, and he had 2 picks in the dead zone. So I personally would go with the quarterback there. And I don't like Mahomes. Like, if you're going to go quarterback early, just take Daniels, Burrow, Hurts at 402 instead of Mahomes at 602. Kenneth Walker is, he could be good if he stays healthy all year, but he's injury prone. He's injured right now, and he could be traded. McLaurin's a really good value of 5'11". All this holdout stuff might be overblown. He could easily re-sign next week, and then his ADP will go back to round 3. But then he took Jalen Warren, just not a fan. I mean, this is PPR, so it makes sense. A little bit more sense to take Jalen Warren. I just feel like Caleb Johnson is going to get the majority of the workload on the ground. Although Warren will still be in on third downs and stuff like that, catching passes. Myers, Moody, it's like mediocre players. I really like Tucker Kraft. Mono guy, I feel like you could take a Mon guy a little bit later than this, but I mean, I guess you never know. Wicks, I know Butters is a big Wicks guy. Yeah, he's a Packer fan. Aaron Rodgers, makes sense as a backup quarterback here. But yeah, some good picks. Some picks I can't really get behind. What do you think about this team?
Yeah, I really like this team too. I think you look at the starting 4 receivers. You've got 2 wide receiver ones with Collins and Thomas. You've got McLaurin, who's going to end up playing. He's got no leverage. So figure he's a wide receiver 2, even if it's a low-end wide receiver 2. He's his wide receiver 3. Jacoby Myers has been a wide receiver 2 both of his years with the Raiders. That's his wide receiver 4 right here. And then so if you've got receivers that are that strong, you're probably thinking that second running back spot's probably pretty weak. But no, he's got Hall and Walker, which are both, sort of probably like running back 9 to running back 15 types, which I think is good enough to win a league. And Mahomes has been bad the last 2 years. Everybody's healthy. Tyquan Thornton's even been pretty good in camp. Maybe he has a bounce back year. So I don't hate that. And then I love Tucker Kraft. He's got a chance to break out. He had really good value on him. I'm with you on Monanga. I think he's a Twitter creation. He ran like 4.6. He was a decent college player. This is a typical Twitter creation where people look at college stats.
Yep.
And they get carried and they look at beat writer clips. He's not going to really be involved in that offense. It's going to be Roschon Johnson and Swift. And even if one of those guys gets hurt, it's still going to be a rotation of backs. So it's not a lot of upside there. And then, I don't think you need to take Aaron Rodgers if you drafted Patrick Mahomes. I think that could be, maybe another backup high upside running back. And Wicks, whatever. I know I like him in best ball, but I just don't know when you're ever going to feel good about putting him into your actual redraft lineup, with all the receivers they have and how low on the pecking order he is. But yeah, I like this team a lot, though.
Okay. I can't say I like Team 12 a lot. So Funky Dan took 4 receivers to start. Mentioned this earlier in the draft. He took Nakua with Stafford as the back issue. St. Brown, Detroit has all sorts of problems on offense with the offensive line being in shambles and the coordinator being gone. Tyreek Hill, who just can't shut up right now, and he's 31 and relies on his speed. So that's looks like regression to me. Mike Evans is 32 and his chronic hamstring issues. Diggs is 31, is coming off 20 ACL. Jennings is his calf issue that won't go away. So he drafted 6 receivers. I'm not comfortable with any of them. Just, man, I don't like to see him. Harvey, we talked about him. I think he's a little too early. Pollard, he's also tends to be banged up a lot. I don't know if he's as explosive as he used to be. Stevenson, hate that pick. Rashad White, I think he's gonna be in the mix much less this year. Burden is kind of like buried in that team, just like, and I trust I trust the coaching staff there to get the ball to a lot of players. It's kind of like what they did in Detroit, but man, I don't know. I don't like Burden too much. Then Jarkoff's the starting quarterback. I guess round 13 is fine value for that, but I can't get behind this team. Are you? Do you like to see more than I do?
Oh, well, I'll give them this. It could work, but this team feels a little bit like, like if you're going to like jump out of an airplane and, somebody else was going to jump out of a different airplane with a parachute and like you had to like navigate to them in the air, it's a little bit scary because typically when you don't draft a lot of upside, right, you're drafting a lot of guys who are maybe proven assets, but they're toward the end of their career. It usually doesn't work. Tyreek Hill could be really good. Maybe it was his wrist injury, or he could be done, or he could just blow up and be out of Miami because he's got a lot going on with that situation right now. Same with Mike Evans. You mentioned he's 32. Hasn't been a good age 32 wide receiver season in the NFL in a long time. I think it's been like 9-10 years. Nakua's got Stafford, is he had the epidural so he can get up and go get his newspaper. That's a bad sign, even though the Rams are saying it's not. St. Brown, yeah, he could be really good, but Ben Johnson, his big thing was he would always feed those slot receivers in his offenses. He's not there anymore, and there are a lot of mouths to feed in that offense. So he's a little bit scary right there. Harvey could work out, but again, he's a rookie. We don't know. Same with Diggs and being 31, coming off the ACL. This is a team that could work, but a lot of times there's kind of like a saying in fantasy football where like if you feel like you need to have already seen it, you're going to be too late. Meaning you've got to have a couple guys on your team who you're projecting to break out and really outperform their ADPs. And this team doesn't really have it. It kind of has a lot of like proven commodities that have performed well in the past, but are getting toward the end of their careers.
Yeah. I can't get behind this team really. It feels like so many landmines here. I feel like you said it could work, but it feels like the odds of it happening seem very low. Okay, so yeah, that's it for this draft. I loved going over everyone's picks and everything. It was fun to do this draft with you, Mike. Our second real mock draft of the summer. We're gonna be doing these all of August. So if you guys you missed this and want to join in, just make sure you subscribe to this channel and you set your notification bell for when we go live. You'll be able to see it. It's usually around 10:30 p.m. on weeknights in August. Unfortunately, tomorrow I know that there's some preseason games, so we'll see. Well, I'm not sure if we're going to go live tomorrow. I don't know yet. I haven't even scheduled a guest yet, so we might go late and just do a best ball draft or something. But if there are preseason games going on, then it's going to be tough to come on. So. And plus, I have to start watching late because I have to put my son to bed. So I'm usually done that at like around 9 o'clock, unless he wants to read. He wants to read Lady and the Tramp a lot recently. He asked me to read it 3 times to him tonight. He couldn't get enough. And like he asked me 3 times, and like every time he's like, Daddy, what's happening here? It's like I told you this like 5 minutes ago. But so.
The end of a night where you're reading a book for the third time in that day, and you're just trying to get through it, and every page has 15 questions. You're like, no, I'm trying to turn the page here.
I know.
I've been there before.
I know, and trying to stay awake is the toughest part. Like third time reading it, like I start nodding off or like saying gibberish because I'm so tired, and sometimes I say like complete nonsense, and my son's like, "Daddy, what are you talking about?" I'm like, "Oh, sorry." I don't know. It's tough to stay interested in a book if you're reading it the third time in 10 minutes. So, yeah, thanks for the team critique. For you both, good night. Yeah, thanks so much, guys, for watching, commenting, and drafting with us. It's always a blast. Like I said, Thursday I'll announce it if we go live. Saturday, I think there are a bunch of preseason games Saturday, so we're definitely not going to go live Saturday, but we could go live on Thursday. But yeah, Mike, do you want to shout anything out?
I've had a blast doing the daily camp updates on your YouTube channel. I'm going to start a strategy series. I know I have a lot of people who are commenting and they're like, "Dude, we love the camp updates, but please stop talking to us about Kanata Mumpfield." Talk about some players who are going to go in the first few rounds, which is, I can't help myself. I'm a nerd, but I will certainly be doing that with the strategy series where we kind of talk about, how to approach some of these different players and positions. So I'm looking forward to that, and just the whole lead up to NFL football season.
Yeah, if you want to catch Mike's videos, definitely hit subscribe and hit the notification bell. Mike's videos have been awesome. Like, he posts them every day. Like, so much great content there, value. Like, I definitely recommend listening to them. I make sure I listen to him when he posts them. So yeah, once again, guys, thank you so much for watching and commenting. Really appreciate it. Please hit like, subscribe, comment below, share this video, visit the link in the description for the merch store, check out walterfootball.com. Tons of content. We're going to be updating our sleepers and bust list tonight / tomorrow morning. So when you guys wake up, I'm sure you'll see them. But yeah, Mike, great drafting with you, and hopefully we do it next week. If we'll discuss availability and whatnot. But yeah, otherwise, guys, have a great night, and I'll talk to you later.